Today we're discussing heads-up draw dominoes. Now our main goal is going to be to score a lot of points whenever possible at the end of a round. It's not about how many rounds you win, it's about how many points you get per round. In this case, I think we won 3 rounds and we lost 3 rounds, but we got 42 points in the last round and quite a few points in another round, and that gave us a grand total of 100. One of the things we need to keep in mind is that our goal is to score a lot of points. Winning a game like this one right here is nice, but it doesn't really help toward our major goal of getting to that 100 points or whatever total we need. Here we get 10 points, but our goal is to get a lot of points when possible.
One way we can limit our opponent's points is by playing high-value dominoes early. Here we play the double 6. And we're trying to get rid of the big ones if we can. That way, if we do end up losing, our opponent's not going to score a ton of points.
Another reason that one might want to play doubles early, unless you have a big cluster, is that if you get toward the end, holding a double, you're not going to have as many potential options. Here you see we have a double 5 and a double 0 that are not in play. If our opponent does not play anything with the 0, we'll have the 0 in play, but that's not going to help us point-wise. So yeah, you want to try to get rid of those doubles early on.
One thing we want to try to focus on is keeping our options open for later on.
Here we have 3 potential choices. If you'll notice this choice right here, the 3-0 is not the best choice, because if we play it, we'll have a 1 and a 0, meaning if our opponent plays 1 and a number we don't have, we won't have any options. If, of course, we play 1-2, that's going to be okay, because we would now have a 2 and a 3 on the board, and that would allow us to play either the 2-5, which is in dark, or the 3-0 later on. Alternatively, we could also play the 1-1, which would leave us a 1 and a 3 on the board, which would give us 2 options here. So we decide to play the 1-1. And no matter what our opponent made move-wise, we have an option available. So you want to think in those terms here. So here, if we play the 1-2, okay, we have the 4 option as well as the 2-5 on the board. So we're going to play 1-2 right there. And now we can still play the 2-5 in that case, no matter what our opponent played there. And yeah, so you basically want to keep your options open as much as possible. That way you can keep making moves as you go. And of course, when you're toward the end of the game, or even during a game, you want to try to get rid of the high value ones first, if it's possible, over the low value ones. That way you'll actually have a chance of winning and not be forced to draw. Here we get lucky. Well, maybe not so lucky, but yeah, pretty much that's what you want to do strategy-wise. Here we give up 10 points, so it's not a major loss. Again, the goal is to get to 100. In this example right here, we're looking at the zeros or the blanks. You'll notice we have 2 of them. You'll also notice, if you look more closely, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the board. That means all 7 are in play. And if you look even closer, you'll notice we have 3 different options. The best option here is going to be to go for points at the showdown, because our opponent's going to probably have more points to us because we're holding blanks. So what we want to do is we want to completely seal it off and not give our opponent any moves at all, given that all the blanks are on the board, combined with the 2 that we have, that comes out to 7. So what that means is we're going to play this 2-0 on the top there on the left side, meaning the only one that can be played is a blank or a 0. Our opponent doesn't have one, and our opponent's going to be forced to draw until the game ends, which they're forced right there. They're going to go to the boneyard and keep drawing a little bit more, and now they ran out, so we can play this double 0 here, and it'll go to showdown, and we're going to end up with a lot of points. We end up almost almost winning the game there. We got 49 points out of that. This round right here ended up going to showdown. Our opponent played the 4-5 on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, meaning there were 2 5s and all the 7 5s were in play, which you can't see because of the point total on the top. But the point here is that if neither player can play a domino, the winner of the round is whoever has the least number of points. In this case, our opponent had 46 points, and we had significantly less than that. I believe it was 16 points. So we got the 46 points. Had we had 47 points and our opponent had 46 points, our opponent would have won the round, and they would have gotten 47 points, but that's not the case here. So sometimes if you got a small number of points and you can seal it off, meaning all 7 of a certain number on the board, in this case all 7 5s were on the board, you can force your opponent to draw and win a large number of points that way. Here we're playing early in the game. We have 3 different dominoes with a 1 in it, and there's 1 on the board. So we're going to take the chance that our opponent might not have one by playing the 4-1 to the right side. So there's 1s on both ends, and will allow us to move, which our opponent does have 1 in that case. That's okay. We can still play the 1 if we need to, so we'll play the 6-0 there. And we get lucky, and our opponent is forced to draw as they played their only 1 there, so there's 5 1s in play. So now that we know our opponent doesn't have any 1s, what we can do is we can play the 2-1 with the idea of playing the 1-1. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3. We have 2 1s in our hand, so there's 5 1s in play. Our opponent's going to have to draw again. We're going to play the 2-1 where the 2 is right there. And now our opponent is forced to draw again. We'll be able to play the 1-1, and there's a bunch of 5s on the board. We're going to hope we can get a 5 at some point there. And we get really lucky right there. Our opponent plays the 3-5, which is always a possibility there. And we get a bunch of points there and end up winning the game. It's, what, 90 points? Yeah, that's a lot of points there. This example right here, we have 3 different 3s, and our opponent has already played 2 of them. So that means 5 of the 7 3s have already been played. So our strategy here is going to be to try to utilize that to our advantage. We're not going to play it yet, but our goal is going to be to try to get those 3s on the board at some point and see if our opponent actually has them. So in this case, we have a 3-0. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we can play a 0. We're going to play the 1-0 right here. And, oh, by the way, our opponent doesn't have any 0s, so that's good. Our opponent's going to have to draw. Now, this is going to probably negate the 3 strategy, but we're going to score a lot of points regardless here. Our opponent might actually have a 3 now, being there's 2 3s on the board. I think there's, let's see, what here? There's 3, 2, 4. They probably would have a 3-1 or a 3-6 is my guess here. We're going to play this 3-0 here. Yep, they had the 3-6 right there. They're going to force us to draw in that case. And there's a 3-1 on the board here. Now we can play the 5-3. And the good news is, if they don't play the 3, we can actually play the 3-3 and finish off right there. And we're going to score a ton of points there. We get 60 points in that case. And that's what you're looking to do. You're looking to score a lot of points when you can and try to keep your losses small, but try to go for those big wins when it's possible. In this case right here, we have 3 dominoes left, and our opponent only has 1, but we do have 1 advantage, in that being that there are 3 4s played on the board, and we have 2 in our hands, so we have 5 of the potential 7 4s out there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a little risk, and we're going to play the 4 on the 2 end, so that we'll have it be 4s in both ends, and it'll allow us to play the double 4 no matter what our opponent does, should we get lucky enough and they don't have a 4. Let's go ahead and play that right there and see how this goes. Our opponent doesn't have it. Our opponent draws. Our opponent gets very lucky and draws right away. Now, of course, we have the double 4, and we know they don't have a 4, so we're going to play the 6-5 here. Our opponent has to draw again. Our opponent draws right there, and we get out of a sticky situation where we would have given up a lot of points. We end up getting a few points, but we would have given our opponent like 20-some points. So that's a 20, 30-point swing right there. Another advantage to playing clusters of the same number, in this example, it's going to be the blank numbers or the number 0. If you'll notice on the board, there are 5 different zeros. There's 6, 0, 1, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 2, 0, and we have the remaining 2 in our hand, so all 7 are covered. And basically, our advantage is that we can make our next 2 moves, and no matter what our opponent does, they don't have a 0, so they cannot block us because we have that double 0. And we can play that. That's why you might want to save it toward the end if you've got a cluster of the same number. So we play this double 0 right here, and we're guaranteed to be able to play the 0-5 no matter what our opponent does. Our opponent has one they can play, of course, and we're able to get a nice victory right there. Here we hold 2 dominoes that have 3s in them, and there are 5 dominoes that have 3s on them on the board. That means we can play this in sequence where we play the double 3 first, and we'll always have an option on the 3-5. And of course, we'll hope that we can move the double 2. If not, we're only going to give our opponent 4 points, but it's more than likely that we'll have a 2 option at some point because there's only 4 2s on the board. So we're going to play the 3-3 here. Let's see what our opponent does. Our opponent plays 6-4. Now we can play 3-5. Now, all the dominoes in this one have been drawn, so we're just hoping they play something with a 2 in it. They may play something right away. They do right there, and we get lucky, and we're able to get rid of those points right there and get a decent round with 31 points. In this game right here, we get really lucky, and we get 5 different 3s to start. Now, one of the things you may notice is that the 6-6, we don't have a 3-6. Our opponent may have a 3-6, they may not. But that's a good way to start off playing. Plus, we can play the 6-5 regardless. Our opponent plays the 3-6. That means the only possible 3 is the 3-2, which we will play later. But we're going to play the 6-5 with the idea of playing the 5-3 and loading up on 3s. We don't have the 2-3, unfortunately. But we're going to keep these 3s going here. And we get lucky. Our opponent plays the 3-1, which means we can box off. The only 3 left is the 3-2. We're going to hope they don't have it, and they have to draw a lot. We'll find out here. They happen to have the 3-2. But that's not so bad, because that means if we can seal off with 3s, we can actually force them to draw quite a bit, which we can't do right there. It doesn't always work. Here they're drawing a bunch. This is really good. And now we're in really, really good shape here because there's no 3s left. So we can play the 0-3, and then we can play the 3-5. Regardless of what they do, we're going to get points. They might draw a lot. They might draw a little. But we're going to win the game or win this round and draw. They're going to have to draw. They get very lucky. They draw the right domino right there. But we're going to win the round right there, and we end up getting 22 points right there. Right here we have a bunch of 3s, and what we're going to do is we're going to play the double 3 with the idea of improving our chances of being able to play the other 3s and keeping those alive here, and forcing our opponent to go with a 6 option, which they have, but we still have an option to play either the 3-2 or the 3-4. We're going to try to get rid of the 3-4 because if our opponent does have a 4, it's likely going to be a low number that we can actually play, given that they played 4-5 and 4-6 so far. And we get unlucky there. But the concept is solid, meaning we want to try to go for stuff where we have high probability. Here we have a couple 1s. We're going to play that. And, by the way, we can play the 2-3. Get rid of some points, and even if we lose here, we've got 1 point there, and we get lucky. We end up winning the round. but, not winning very many points. But we kept our loss small just in case we lost that. We kept our losses small by keeping our point totals low. In this example right here, we're faced with another choice between playing the 3-1 and the 1-6. Now, one of the things we want to keep in mind here is that there's only 3 threes on the board, and we really don't have any other threes in our holdings. Whereas there's also 3 6s on the board, but we also have a 6-0 in our holdings, and we could use a 0 to play. So in this case, we're going to want to play the 1-6 versus the 1-3 right there. Our opponent happens to have a 6. That's okay. We can still play the 3, which was also in our holdings as well. So in that case, we get the better of the 2 options there. And we get lucky. Our opponent plays the 6. And then they're forced to draw, and we win a few points and win a small amount in that round anyway. Here we are faced with another choice between playing the 6 to the blank side or the blank to the 6 side. In this case, we don't have either, but we want to try to create a situation that can be advantageous. If you'll notice that none of the blanks have been played, our opponent is more likely to have a blank than not. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to play the 6 to the side of the 0 or the blank side. So we'll have 2 6s showing right there and hope that our opponent has to draw a little bit. We may have to draw as well, but we get lucky and our opponent does draw the 6-3, which was one option that was out there, and we're able to pick up a lot of points in that situation where we might have won, we might have lost, but in this case, we're able to get 26 points and win the game. Face the game decision, we would like to get rid of the 2 dominoes we have left. We have 2 choices. We have the 5-2, which can be played in 2 different spots, and we have the 5-4. The question is, which one is a better choice? Well, since we hold 2 5s in our hands, we want to be able to play a 5 the next move no matter what our opponent does. That way we can capitalize on the amount of dominoes they have left and get a nice big score. So what that means is that we should have 5s on both ends so that we can play this 5-4 at the end. That means we should play this 2-5, but don't play it on the top part of the screen. We want to play it on the bottom part of the screen right here. So we have 2 5s showing right there. And our opponent plays a 5-6, which allows us to get rid of our dominoes and score a bunch of points. Had we played the other one, the game may have dragged on. We may have even had to do a little bit of drawing, as our opponent would have played some numbers that might not have been advantageous for us. In the spot right here, we are faced with the choice. Do we play the 5-4 right there, or do we play the double 1? Well, if we look at the board more closely, we're going to notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 5s on the board. Okay? And we have 1 in our hand. That means we have the last of the remaining 7 5s. That means, in this case, we should hold that 5-4 for the last move, and we should play the 1-1, as there's only 3 different ones on the board, meaning our opponent is going to play it most likely, and we might not be able to play our 5. So if we play the 5-4, there'd be a 4 and a 1 on there, and if our opponent plays 1 something that's doesn't have a 4 in it, we can't play any more dominoes. So we're going to play the 1-1 right here, and our opponent ends up playing 1-4. So we would have got lucky. We would have been able to play it, but if our opponent had played 1-2 or something like that, we would have not been able to play our 5-4, which we can play right here.
So, in conclusion, the final point I'd like to try to reemphasize is that you want to try to maximize the amount of points you get in a round while minimizing the amount of points your opponent gets in a round. And if you can do that more often than not, you're going to end up winning the game. And of course, that'll wrap that up. I'd like to thank you for watching and wish you good luck.